Welcome to the discussion video on budgeting. So before we proceed with the budgeting as a topic, let us first introduce management reporting as a course. So what is management reporting? These course will cover the topics related to financial reporting and how management accounting can be used to create value in companies. So um, we use what we have learned in all the aspects of management accounting in providing reports for top management to decide on. This will include topics related to budgeting and forecasting, performance management, cost management, financial statement analysis. This will also include corporate finance and other investment decisions. So, as an introduction to what management reporting is all about, it's important that we identify yung pinakamahalagang aspect of a management report, which is the budget. Okay. As a reference, I will be using um, the Managerial Accounting book uh, by Warren. I think we have the other author is this book is by uh, Warren and Tyler. This is Warren and Tyler. Okay, so let's proceed. Let us take a look at this paradigm first as we go along with the budgeting process. So kailangan itong budgeting is the forefront of the management report kasi dito tinitingnan kung on a financial perspective kung how far will the company go, anong resources ang available to be able to achieve those goals. So this is what is really needed at the forefront of the decision. So bago tayo mag-decide on how far will we go, ay kailangan ma-identify natin kung anong budget at restrictions ang meron tayo, anong mga resources ang available for us to be able to go on our planned goals. So by looking at the book of Tyler and Warren, this is chapter 8. So nag-jump na tayo on chapter 8 because chapter 1 is an introduction to managerial accounting na dapat ay we already have identified or we already have learned on our previous years in the undergraduate. Then after we are introduced with managerial accounting, we look at the cost systems and the cost allocation. So this has been discussed to you on some of your managerial accounting subjects like job order costing, process costing, activity-based costing, support departments and allocations, and then joint costing. So now since we are introduced with managerial accounting and we have developed the costing approaches in managerial accounting, we will now be able to look at planning and evaluation tools. So nandito na tayo sa last part, which is the decision making. So some of the items here ay na-encounter mo na. So this is just some parts will be a repetition of the items that you have already learned, and some will include in an advanced study or a deeper understanding of the decision and planning and evaluation tools like the cost volume profit analysis or the break even analysis, the variable costing. You have already have identified that in some of your managerial accounting subjects. So now we will focus on our budgeting systems kasi ang subject mo ay management reporting. So ang yung orientation ay nasa budgeting systems ang yung introductory part. Okay? So we will be using the Managerial Accounting by Tyler and Warren from time to time, and we will be jumping on the chapters. We will not be covering the entire book, but we will use this as a reference in looking for the topics related to the management reporting subject. Since as of now, this is a new subject, there is no prescribed textbook for the management reporting subject. So maybe in the coming years, magkakaroon na tayo ng prescribed textbook related to this as mandated by the CHED memorandum order. So we'll look at the budgeting systems. The electronic copy of the ebook will be posted in our Google Classroom. So we look at our objectives. We describe budgeting, its objectives, and its impact on human behavior. We describe the basic elements of the budget process, the two major types of budgeting, the use of computers in budgeting now as we go along with technology. We describe the master budget for a manufacturing company. We prepare the basic operating budgets for a manufacturing company and the financial budgets of a manufacturing company. So bakit ang orientation is more leaning towards manufacturing company dahil yan ang talagang nagre-require ng budgets before we proceed to operations. Kasi yung other types of businesses such as merchandising and service, they do not usually require an extensive or an intensive budget preparation. Kasi kapag merchandising, kung ano yung available na funds, it will only be used on purchasing items. So, ganun lang siya. Same as true with service, kung anong available na funds, yun lang ang kaya mong gamiting resources. Unlike for manufacturing, na kailangang i-plan mo pati yung pagbili ng raw materials, pag-place into production, and other items. Okay. And finally, under Objective 6, we describe and illustrate the use of stuffing budgets for non-manufacturing businesses. So this is under analysis for decision making. So what is a budget before we proceed with the technicalities of budgeting? Budgets play an important role for organizations for all sizes and forms. For example, budgets are used in managing the operations of government agencies, churches, hospitals, and other non-profit organizations. Individuals and families also use budgeting in managing their financial affairs. This chapter describes and illustrates budgeting for a manufacturing company. Okay, so what are the objectives of budgeting? Um, we look at the goals, we execute the plans to achieve the goals, and then we evaluate. So yun uh, ang phases on making an efficient and well-planned budget. We first establish our goals, kung gaano kataas na profit ang gusto natin, gaano kataas na market share ang gusto natin, what level of expenses do we expect. So we establish our goals. So the goals will differ among companies. So the goals will vary among industries and among nature of businesses. So, kailangan i-establish natin specifically kung ano ang goals na yan. And then, we execute the plans to achieve the goals. What do we need to achieve these specific goals? And then after the execution, we look at the goals and the actual results by comparing. Okay? So by doing that, we look at budgeting affecting the following managerial functions. So in your management subject, you are thought of these functions, yung planning, directing, and controlling. So what does this involves? Planning involves setting goals to guide decisions. Directing involves decisions and actions to achieve budgeted goals, while controlling is this involves yung pagbibigay ng feedback against the budgeted goals. So ito na po yung tinatawag na on planning, we establish the goals. On directing, we execute the plan of actions. And controlling, we evaluate the results uh, using the planned goal of action or yung planned action plans as we give feedback, 'di ba? So, yan siya. Planning, directing, controlling, and then controlling, we give feedback to planning. So, to be able to smoothly uh, prepare the budget. Baka merong mga goals na hindi na attainable or baka masyadong mataas yung nakaset na goals, whether it is financial or managerial in nature. So human behavior problems can arise in the budgeting process in the following situations. The budget goals are set too tight, which are very high or impossible to achieve, or budgeted goals are set too loose, which are very easy to achieve, or budgeted goals conflict with the objectives of the company and the employee. So for us to understand, we look at Exhibit 2, the human behavior problems in budgeting. So what are this? Kapag too tight, o ibig sabihin lang ng too tight na yan ay masyadong mataas, masyadong idealistic ang iyong budget goals. So, ano ang tendency kapag masyadong mataas ang budgeted goals? Uh, it will not encourage performance kasi maiisip ng employees that even they do their 100% ay hindi nila kayang i-achieve yung goal. So magpe-perform na lang sila at below the what is expected of them kasi ganun lang din naman, hindi nila ma-achieve. While when we say the budgeted goals are set too loose, masyadong mababa yung budgeted goals, and it is very easy to achieve, ang tendency dyan ay wala na ring effort masyado. Kasi kahit naman galingan or kahit hindi masyadong galingan ng employees, ay they will just achieve or makaka-perform pa rin sila. Next is when the budgeted goals are in conflict with the objectives of the company. You look at the example, the conflicting budget goals. Ang gusto niya ay ma-achieve mo yung goal pero nag-set siya ng rule na there is no jumping. So paano ka mo ma-achieve 'yan? Kailangan mong tumalon to achieve the goal. Ganon. So in actual scenario, what is a best example of this is that, for example, the budget goals is set at dapat maging efficient on the use of the goals at 100,000. So, binigyan ng budget na 100,000 ang isang service unit. However, meron palang company rules na nagsasabi na uh, um, any performance or any expenditure below 100,000 will be sanctioned by the company because of inefficiency. So paano ka gagalaw doon? So merong conflicts with the set budget and then the rules of the company. So how do we address that? Uh, it is the responsibility of management to identify those goals, and it is the responsibility of management accountants to provide factual information related to budgets and uh, yung mga ganyang klasing analysis, di ba? So anong magiging basis natin on analyzing whether the goals are too tight, whether the goals are too loose, and whether there are conflicts? Ay on the financial perspective, we'll look at our past information, yung data. For example, we use linear trends, we use a linear programming, we use yung quantitative techniques. Pwedeng gamitin kasi natin yung past financial information to be able to predict the future goals. Hindi naman pwede na ang nakaset na budget last year ay 200,000 tapos ngayon ay gagawin mong 50,000. So we look at factual information. So dapat lagi tayong based on the records and based on science, based on the accounting science, yung paggamit natin ng factual information, financial information to be able to leverage on those financial information and to decide on the future. Okay. Okay, we look at this, yung budgeting systems. So ang sabi dito, the budgeting systems will vary among companies and industries. So, pabago-bago yan among companies and industries kasi nga, iba-iba tayo ng nature, iba-iba tayo ng businesses. So, the budgets of one company will not be applicable to another company. The budget goals of one company may be too tight for another company. The budget goals of one company may be too loose for one company. And the budget goals of one company may be in conflict with the rules of another company. So dapat itong mga budgeting systems natin are customized according to the needs and the resources of the company. Ang sabi niya dito, the example, the budget system used by Ford differs from that of Delta Airlines, 'di ba? However, the basic budgeting concepts discussed will apply to all types of business and organization. Yung mga basic concepts, but the details related to the budgeting ay magkaiba. For example, this is Ford Motors. This is a ibang industry yan. Ito naman ay airlines. So, ibang industry din. The budgetary period for operating activities normally includes the fiscal year of a company. A year is short enough that future operations can be estimated fairly accurately, yet long enough that the future can be viewed in a broad context. However, for control purposes, annual budgets are usually subdivided into short time periods such as quarters, years, months, or weeks. Yes, meron tayong annual budget. However, para ma-compute natin yung annual budget kasi mas maganda that you monitor the budget on a periodic basis. Kaya gumagawa ang most companies ng divisions or subdivisions for that. Pwedeng meron tayong monthly budget or meron ding weekly budget, meron quarterly budget, and then isa-sum up na lang natin yan for us to make an annual budget. Okay. We look at Exhibit 3, yung concept of continuous budgeting. So, a variation of fiscal year budgeting called the continuous budgeting maintains a 12-month projection into the future. A 12-month budget is continually revised by replacing the data for the month just ended with the budget data for the same month in the next year. Continuous budget illustrated. So, look at Exhibit 3. Diba? Okay. The concept of continuous budgeting ay tuloy-tuloy yung pag-budget natin kaya siya continuous. Dinidelete yung first, yung 1 month, and then you add 1 month yung current month. So kung tingnan mo, for example, this, okay, February 20Y1, so March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So ilang months yun? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. From February 20Y1 to January 20Y2, that is a 12-month period or 1 year. Ngayon, kung ikaw ay mag pa-plan ng budget for February 20Y2, you just have to delete Feb 20Y1 and then you add 20Y2 para ma-cover yung continuous budget for 1 year. Okay? Yun yung concept ng continuous budgeting. Ngayon naman, kung nasa March 20Y2 ka na, you delete March 20Y1 para ma-capture natin yung budget for the next 1 year budget. Okay. Developing an annual budget usually begins several months prior to the end of the current year. This responsibility is normally assigned to a budget committee. Such a committee often consists of the budget director, the controller, the treasurer, the production manager, and the sales manager. The budget process is monitored and summarized by the accounting department, which reports to the committee. There are several methods of developing budget estimates. One is yung zero-based budgeting. It requires managers to estimate sales, production, and other operating data as though operations are being started for the first time. This approach has the benefit of taking a fresh view of the operations each year. So, anong sinasabi so meron ka ng concept ng continuous budgeting kanina. Now is zero-based budgeting. So what's the concept with zero-based budgeting? Ang sinasabi dito, kapag natapos yung year na yan, for example, ngayon, 2021, so meron kang budget binigay sa'yo for the year, for example, 1 million. Kung next year ay merong, kung 2022, you will start at zero. Ano ibig sabihin nun? when you start at zero, ibig sabihin lang po niyan ay kung magkano man yung savings na natira mo on 2021 ay hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin on 2022. Kumbaga, magse-set ka uli ng goal, magse-set ka uli ng budget requirements at yun ang popondohan o ibibigay sa yung budget ng yung pwedeng ng head office. Halimbawa, ikaw ay service unit or ikaw ay branch or ikaw ay operating unit, ito ang bibigay na budget sa iyo for this year. So hindi mo pwedeng gamitin yung savings na halimbawa may natira ka pang 200,000 for last year, hindi na pwede. Lahat ng savings ng bawat operating unit ay ibabalik sa fund ng treasury ng company at another budgeting na naman. Kaya siya zero-based budgeting. Okay, this is in contrast with continuous budgeting kasi in continuous budgeting, pwede mong gamitin yung mga savings mo on the prior years. Okay? So yan, yung zero-based budgeting in the government, yan po ang ginagamit, yung zero-based budgeting. Okay. Okay, I think we have to end the discussion video here. I will be continuing the discussion on static budget and flexible budget on the succeeding discussion video. So ngayon po ay nagsisimulan nating i-internalize in our systems the concept of management reporting. So andito tayo sa phase ng budgeting kasi itong budgeting ay napakahalaga on management reporting. Ito ang laging nilang hinahanap. Kaya ito po yung unang module na ibinigay ko sa inyo, yung budgeting and forecasting as a tool. Kasi kapag management accountant ka, ito yung normaling laging hinihingi at laging dinidemand ng top management kasi kailangan nila yung details related to budget, forecast, profit planning, and among others. So, kailangan natin itong aralin mabuti. Yung budgeting systems, the classifications of budgets, ano-anong mga klase ng budget na kailangan nating i-present. Okay? I think I have to end the discussion by here. We will continue on the second part of the discussion video on budgeting. Thank you.